Alright, this is station 1, using a centigram balance to find the mass of an object. We have 6 steps. If you follow carefully, you should get a pretty accurate mass. The first step is to clean out the pan. The second, to set the riders to 0. Let's take a look at what we're talking about here. Here's your pan. You need to clean out any dust in the pan. If it's all set, then you should be set to go to the second step, which is to set all these little riders to the 0 mark. These ones were all set, but you got to kind of watch out. Even that would affect your reading ultimately if it wasn't set in the notch. Alright, next step is to use the 0 knob to set the balance to 0. Let's take a look at what we're talking about. If we notice, the 0 line is a little bit high from the 0 mark. Notice the left arrow is a little bit above the right arrow. So what we have to do is use our zeroing knob over here to balance that out. If it's a little bit high, what you want to do is turn the knob towards you, and that should correct it. Let's take a look. It'll teeter-totter all day long unless you kind of bring it right to 0 and move your thumb away. That's what I like to do. And that solved our problem. It's pretty much right at 0. Okay, let's go back to our checklist here. Alright, next step is we're going to put our object in the pan. And our 5th step is going to balance with the riders, starting with the large ones. So here we have an object. We place it in the pan. And now we have to balance this out until it goes to the 0 line using these riders. Well, it's trial and error to start. Well, starting with a large one, that's too much. So now we know we're going to be using the middle one here, or one of the middle ones. And I keep going. Okay, too much. 50 is too much. 40 is too little, but then we add on to the 40. And I go 45 is just too much. So we know it's probably going to be 44 point something. Now, one little tricky thing you got to pick up on here, very important. You will get a poor reading if this little rider is not in the notch. So if I had it like that even, the 4 is visible, but it's not in the notch. You have to make sure it's in the notch. The last step, so we have 44, not balanced, so we have to use tenths of a gram. A gram is the mass of a paper clip, or small paper clip, just about. So these are fractions of mass equal to less than a paper clip. Okay, so where are we at? It's not quite into balance, so I keep going all the way over. That's not enough. We're getting very close. Takes some patience finding the mass of an object. That is pretty darn close to being balanced. Maybe a smidgen more of mass to bring this into balance. And again, the whole thumb trick helps with make this go a little bit faster. That is pretty darn close. Now, reading the last step in our checklist is to carefully read the riders. Step 6. So here's that step put together. For reading your riders, you got to add what you see. 0 at the top, 40, 44, and now the decimals. This gets a little tricky, so watch carefully. We know it's 44 point something, but 44 point what? Well, see the little notch there is so close to 0.9, but it's not quite there yet, so it's actually 44.8. Well, how many lines towards 0.9? Well, it's like kind of like money. So this is 44.85 is right, that big line, and then 40.4.8 6, 8, 7, 8, 8, 8, 9, almost. This can read to 1,000th of a gram of accuracy. So pretty much it's a little bit in between 44.88 and 44.89. So we're going to call this 44.86. I mean 886. So let's write that answer up so you can get a look at it. 44.886 or 7. It gets really crazy down to that level. So that's 1,000th of a gram accuracy. Seems a little bit ridiculous with an object such as a metal cube, but when we get down to finding the density of air, it's going to be very significant. So there's the final reading. For today, we're going to just simply write our answers to the nearest hundredth, and this would be an absolutely acceptable answer. Notice grams are my unit there.